I'd like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board on Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 at 5 o'clock in the community room. This is a regular scheduled meeting. And Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Peabody?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Litton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum, and with the board's permission, we've got the first item was because we've got some people calling in on the closed session. But if I could move one item forward, and that is we've got a guest here from Lighthouse and Sharmista, and so our guest doesn't have to wait. Sharmista, you and her want to come up? And we adopted a policy, and we've got our first customer.
There we go.
That's right. So, we just recently approved the water fountain policy for the Frankfurt Plant Board, and since then we have received our first application for that from the Lifehouse for Animals. And here to present and tell us a little bit more about her organization is the board president, Dawn Welch.
Thank you, Ms. Welch.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm really excited. You all do great things for our community. So first, let me say thank you to you all for all you do. We would love to have a little bit of partnering, maybe, to do some other things for the community as well. And I'm going to say I'm a terrible, terrible public speaker, so laugh at me when I leave.
You're doing great.
Not while I'm here. So the Lifehouse for Animals, it's a no-kill canine and feline adoption facility, so we only take dogs and cats. And we also have managed intake, meaning we aren't like the Humane Society, where if somebody knocks on the door of the Humane Society, they have to take what's in that person's arms. We are a managed facility, which means we can be a little bit more selective on the animals that we take. Now, that doesn't mean we don't take those difficult animals to come in, but we have limited capacity. We operate completely volunteer, except for 3 part-time people. We have a part-time shelter manager. He works 5 hours a day. We have a part-time groomer who works limited hours, and then we also have a 5-hour-a-week volunteer coordinator to help us keep all of our volunteers together and moving and knowing what to do. So the majority of the money that comes into the Lifehouse truly goes straight to the animals and the care of those animals. So I wanted to let you all know that before, because I think that's a big selling point for our facility, is we don't have a lot of overhead. We don't have a mortgage. We don't have any of that. Everything was donated to us. So, and we only operate on donations. We don't get city, county funding or anything like that. Only donations that come in are how we operate. So we're very, very good money managers. We've been in business for 21 years now, and we're still rolling on strictly donations. So we are very cautious with our funds and such. So in the first 6 months of 2024, we took in over 200 dogs and cats from Frankfurt, Franklin County, and our surrounding areas. 200 dogs and cats. That doesn't even include what the Humane Society took in. Clearly, we have a big issue here. So we're all going to stay in business. We're all going to keep working. But we also like to reach out to the community and give back because they've given us so much. That's what we hope with this water fountain is. We have events out there that focus on walking your dog. We invite the public to bring their dog to walk in Prevention Park, which is a nice, safe area to walk. Grab a shelter dog as well, and go for a walk with your dog and your shelter dog. Now, sneakily, this is how we get people to adopt dogs. But we don't tell people that. I just told the public, but
we won't tell.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching, John. Nobody's watching.
No.
So, it is by far our most popular program, and it encourages getting out, being active, walking with your dog, walking with your family. Even people from the Heritage, the neighborhood right next to us, they jump the fence with their dogs and start their walking over at the Lifehouse. They walk Prevention Park, jump the fence back, and go home. So we are really a hub for animal activity on the west side of town, and we love it that way. We want that to continue. That's why we think one of these people and dog water fountains would be a perfect fit right there at our shelter. We are excited to try to maybe partner with you guys to do one. We're excited to partner with you guys on anything, frankly, because you all have such a good reputation. Let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I need to say real quick.
Saying we have a good reputation is not hurting yourself at all with this.
Oh, well,
No.
well, I do believe that. I will say that the Cable 10 crew,
Yes.
Zach, Brett, they come out and visit us every 2 weeks. We do a show with them. We have a segment every other Friday on around 10, and you would just be blown away at how many people call or come by the shelter and say, I saw you on around 10. I didn't know you were here. Now I want to talk about a dog, or I want to talk about volunteering or donating or something like that. It's very exciting that you all have that kind of reach in this town, and you're definitely a partner that we would like to hook up with. You have any questions or anything I can answer?
Anybody got any questions?
I looked at the application and kind of, went on maps.
Mhm.
Where are you proposing it be located?
So we are on Fido Court, which is a cul-de-sac. So you go, and actually Fido Court ends in our parking lot. We would like it to be up in the cul-de-sac area so that you don't actually have to come onto Lifehouse grounds to use it,
Okay.
so that everyone feels comfortable using it. But it can also benefit those people who do come to the Lifehouse and originate their dog walking and stuff there.
Great, great.
And I'd asked our Mr. Yo, because we adopted the policy and had not really firmly defined what the donation policy might look like. And I'd asked Sharmista, who of course, is very good at this stuff. And Sharmista, you want to mention what you thought might work?
So I know that previously with the parks and the schools, we've looked at different types of donation, but one consideration for the board to consider is maybe split the labor, like we donate the labor and the organization requesting the water fountain pays for the materials. So kind of do a labor material split with
Because the
them.
materials would be something we'd have to go out and buy.
Correct.
Or they would buy. But then the labor we could do with our staff as it was convenient, as we had time.
Yeah, correct. And in this case, just there's about a 3-month lead time for water fountains, so by then we probably wouldn't be able to do it this year due to weather, so we could plan for next year if the board decides to take this into consideration.
Have you all looked at, because you have quite a long driveway, and then you get to your parking lot. But so up by the cul-de-sac, is that feasible from our standpoint as far as accessing water? Does it make it actually easier?
Yes, yeah, if we set it right there by the sidewalk, it's gonna be convenient for all the walkers out there.
Well, I mean.
I mean, for us
to-
accessing the.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I misunderstood. Yes, absolutely, and we'll work with Dawn as far as a location that makes sense for both of us.
Okay.
And if we installed it, then once a year, we'd come out and weatherize it at the end of the season. So nothing froze up or whatever, right?
Correct.
John?
If it's down by there, will it still be on Lifehouse property? Will it be on the right of way? Will it be, do we know where it would, are we restricted in where we're gonna put this? And is there an issue about, do we need to make sure it's on Lifehouse property? Or can we put it, in the right of way?
Yeah, we'll check the property lines, like, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, does the property pins come right up to the sidewalk, do you know?
They come up to the sidewalk.
Okay.
So it would end up being on their
Yeah,
property.
Probably be better if it was on their,
Yeah.
make sure it's on their property, so yeah, okay, great.
Because we bust up the city sidewalk.
Yeah,
Well, I'll talk to
they
them.
wouldn't like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with our layout out there. There's a lot that is to the right of our building.
Okay,
That when Mr. Davenport passed away, he actually bequeathed that lot to us.
okay,
Really?
So we are actually trying to figure out what we're gonna do with it.
okay.
So this would be the first step in making
Okay.
some of that a usable service area.
Knowing him, that doesn't surprise me that he gave you that lot, so,
Well, he gave us our original lot,
Yeah.
and was one of our founders. I mean, he was just
yeah.
an angel to the Lifehouse. Yeah.
And do you all think it's feasible for you to cover the
Yeah.
actual materials?
Yeah, we can do that. We're very blessed with people donating to us, but this would be something that we would do some fundraising for.
Good.
Since it's a community project, we would certainly reach out and see if some banks or some,
Yeah.
people who are holding the money
Yeah.
might be able to jump in and help us afford that. It's not that we couldn't afford it. We are comfortable. But we would, of course, want to involve as much of the community as we could so that there's more ownership.
Sponsorship may be available, who knows? So, okay.
So, Ms. Wills here, if anybody doesn't have any other questions, would anybody feel comfortable making a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You got your water fountain.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So very much, and thank you for being patient with my
No.
rambling, non-professional speak.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we request permission to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61-810-1C to discuss proposed litigation regarding a contract matter, and also under 61-810-1N to solicit a bidder for the award, to select a bidder for the award of a contract.
So we have a motion to go in closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're going in closed session. We'll go upstairs to the conference room. Motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, regarding action during the closed session, I would like to make a motion to approve the West Banco proposal that was discussed in the closed session and to direct staff to work with council to finalize an agreement for future board approval.
We have that
And
motion.
no further action was taken.
We have that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion on it? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Mr. Dent, thank you and your team for all your work, sir.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Next, approval of minutes. We have the minutes before you for the July 24th special board meeting. Everybody has those in their packets. Is there any changes or corrections? If not, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Next item, financial statements for the month ending June 31st, 2024, and the closeout for June 30th, 2024. Mr. Dent.
Yes, good evening. The statutes that form the plant board require us to have an annual audit. So our fiscal year ends each June 30th. What we have before you tonight, as far as the financials for June 30th, are the unaudited copies of the financials. These were what was provided to our auditors, Blue & Company, to audit. That audit began earlier in the year when they do preliminary procedures, but then around August 5th, they started doing procedures for the year end. It's been going for a few weeks, and that's progressing nicely, so that's currently happening. So we will be picking June back up in October whenever the audit is presented, but today I'll go ahead and give you a quick summary of where we were for the year ending June 30th, 2024. So I'm looking at page 23 of your board packet. We'll start with the statement of net position. Just point out a couple of things on this document. You'll notice on line 75, we ended the year with just over $238 million in assets. A couple of notable things in the assets section, as you'll notice, what we show is the June 30, 24 compared to June 30, 2023. You'll notice when you combine cash and investments, we were down $2 million from a year ago. That's something we did anticipate. We have been investing cash into infrastructure projects at a faster rate than we can generate it, so we knew that was going to occur. Something else, and speaking of those investments in infrastructure, line 45, property, plant, and equipment, our single largest asset. As you'll notice, when you look at the variance, almost $9 million increase year over year. So this is taking our investments in infrastructure and decreasing that or netting it by depreciation. So depreciation was $8.3 million, as you can see on our income statement. So we outpaced depreciation by almost $9 million. So that's a significant investment back into the plant. Looking at liabilities, look at line 150. You'll see as of June 30th, 24, just over $104 million in total liabilities. Something worth noting is the pension asset and the pension expense. The asset, this is lines 60 through 70, and on the liability side, 130 through 145. You'll notice the asset went down, and also the liability went down. When you net the two together, that's approximately a $2 million change. That was actually booked as a decrease in pension expense, and that's something I'll talk more when we get into looking at the financial performance and how that impacted the financials. Looking at net position, line 170, just under $134 million to end the year, bringing your total liabilities and net position to the same as your assets, just over $238 million. I'd like to briefly talk about the financial performance of the company. So that would be over on page 28. So on page 28 of the board packet is your statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position. This is for the 12 months ending June 30th, 2024. You'll notice when you look at budget to actual, we did do better than expected, and I'll walk briefly through that. So looking at line 20, total operating revenues of just over $106 million, with your operating expenses on line 50 and your general and admin expenses on line 260, with other revenue on 320. What you there have is a increase in net position of just over $11.6 million. This is a material difference between budget for one primary reason, About 50% of this variance is due to our pension expense. The plant board is under the Kentucky Public Pension Authority, and we typically have a unfunded liability that we book each year. We budget that liability in, so that was included in our budget. We budgeted around $2 million. That was an additional expense that we expected that the pension plan would perform, would be unfunded. Whenever we got the results back from, it's always a delay, a year, we realized the adjustment went the other way. So actually was an improvement to the plan, and we had to make an adjustment $2 million the other direction. So approximately $4 million of the variance in budget to actual is that pension expense. So just wanted to make that known. FPB's financials are accrual based, which means our revenue is recognized whenever we actually bill the service, not when we collect, and on the liability side, whenever we incur the expense, not when we pay it. So there is a difference between accrual and cash. Just because we are doing better than expected on income statement doesn't correlate to cash. As we talked about just with our balance sheet, we actually had a decrease of $2 million year over year. So I just think that's an important thing to point out. But overall, we'll cover this again in October. As far as July, we're off and running for another fiscal year. You have it in your board packet. Nothing substantial to talk about. It's just one month out of a 12-month period. So I don't have a whole lot to cover in there, but I'd be glad to answer any questions you have on the financials.
Okay. Anybody got questions of David on the financials? And I appreciate your explanation, David, because I think a lot of times there's a perception that when they see those figures in the general public that we've got a lot of cash laying around.
Right.
And a lot of it's accounting entries, and a lot of it is the way bills flow, projects in one year move to another, and it's just the way, but there's not a big pile of cash sitting
No,
here
sir.
in this agency. It's all been invested or it's part of liabilities that have to be booked.
You see a lot of people point to, you can call it the general term, the income statement. We call it the statement of revenue expense change in net position. They're seeing just one portion. That's the operating, revenue minus operating expense. There still is service on debt, infrastructure investment, and maintaining a healthy cash balance. So those other three pieces aren't recognized when you look at just the income statement.
Right. Any questions for David? Okay, if not, do we need just one motion on both the June 30th and the July statements, or two separate motions, Hans?
I think you could make, because they're kind of separate items, I'd probably do two motions.
Okay,
I'd make a motion to accept the fiscal year 24 unaudited financials that was presented at the meeting today.
okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Financials accepted. I need a motion on the July financial statements.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion, financials accepted. Thank you, sir. Do you think the auditors will be here?
We anticipate the report released in October and would be presented around the October
Okay.
board meeting.
Now, is this the last year for Blue and Company?
I believe we agreed on a one-year extension and would talk about it again, so I think we're good for this next year, 25.
Okay.
And then we'll discuss it again.
But they
No, I
could
take
have
that
one
back.
more year?
I'm a year behind. This was the year that we gave another extension, so we will need, after this is over, we'll need to have another conversation.
Because I remember they gave us a prize for two.
Yes.
Two award, okay.
Yes.
Next one, public comment. Ms. Poe, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Do we have any web comments or anything we need to deal with?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. General Manager, you want
Yes.
to be the master of ceremonies?
Yes, we're
Okay.
going to have a department report. The first one is public information, but I think Cassie is in the conference. David, is there anything you want?
I don't
there
believe
not
we
a
have anything
comment?
at this time.
Okay, not anything. Okay, then the next will be Network Operations Center.
Good evening. The NOC report, I believe, is on page 159 or 160 in your packet. The July NOC report, actually, since July is the end of the fiscal year, I threw in some year-end numbers in there as well. It looks like for the month of July, the NOC took 970 trouble calls. For FY 2025, so ending July, from June to July, the whole year, they took 6,235 for the year. In July, we did 3,892 phone calls, customer calls. And on the locating side of the house, in July, we had 619 locates. And then for the year of, 23 or 24, 25, for last fiscal year, we did 7,002 locates, so just over 7,000. And of course, each one of those locates were multiple utilities at each stop, so pretty busy year. But that's just the quick knock summary, unless you have any questions.
And I do want to compliment Darren. You're the vice chair is at the emergency management group,
Yeah.
the group here in
Yeah.
Frankfurt. That's all the police, sheriff, National Guard, K-State, fire, EM. I mean, it's all the groups that meet periodically to make sure everything's planned. And Darren's vice chairman of that group. And I mean, I just wanted to compliment you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That group, the mayor appointed me the chair of that group, I believe in 2000, and I was the chair until I came here and thought I was out of it and turned around and got reelected to the vice chair spot, so I'm still there. But that group, it's made up of all the emergency response agents, basically anybody that would have a role in a disaster in this community: Red Cross, Salvation Army, hospital, health department, industry partners, everyone.
You know, transportation's on there. I mean,
Everybody, yeah. We meet quarterly, and we have for that many years consistently, and it's very good. You know, the thing we always say is the time to meet people is on the scene of a disaster. So just meeting at least quarterly and talking through things and upcoming events and what everybody has on their plate, it's really good. It builds lots of really good working relationships. So I'm glad we have that group, and I hope it stays for years to come.
And I felt like I owed Darren because he invited me to the last meeting where they talked about the bridge. So that's why Darren and Sharmista have to talk about the bridge later. He drug me down there, so now he's got to talk about it. So
Right.
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
Thank you. Next is customer service.
Good evening, members of the board. You can find the customer service reports on page 161 to 166. Customer service had a busy month in July. We waited on approximately 9,254 customers. And as requested, I did include the kiosk transactions on the report on page 161. So we had 181 customers utilize the indoor kiosk. Since Kathy Lindsay's not here this week, I get to bring all the good news. Usually she steals my thunder. Talking about the kiosks, we did get the outdoor kiosks installed last week. The electric department helped us with that. And so we've been doing some customer education out in the drive-through this last week and this week to show customers the kiosk and get them to using those. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from customers that they really like the convenience of the 24 hours. And we've been out there from the 1 to 2 o'clock lunch, excuse me, showing customers and getting them to make payments so they don't have to come back at 2. So it's been really nice. Customers seem to be really receptive. The other thing that I want to report on is in June, I mentioned that our Google rating, that we were getting close to 3.0. And so about February or March of 2023, we were sitting at a 1.6 stars is what we were on Google. And so we made a push to ask customers who had a good interaction with us to review us. And so this month we actually hit the 3.0. So I wanted to let everyone know that and let our customers know that we appreciate them rating us. And to celebrate, I wanted to read a few.
Okay.
I'll try to make it short because I know we've been here for a minute. But so Reagan said, FPB made it so easy for me to set up my utilities. Moving has been so stressful, and the ease of setting up my utilities took a huge weight off my shoulders. Love that you can do all your utilities through them. Dawn said, love the show, enjoy watching, and it lets me know what's going on around town and other places. Keep up the good work. River Girl said, I love my FPB Nextband internet service. It is so fast. My TV picture is clear, as well as my iPad. The installation was quick and easy. The workers were very nice and professional. And so that's just a sample of the customers who have given us good reviews, and also an example of that this is a team effort. Like a lot of people think that these are reviews or just customer service department. It's not. It's everyone in this room. It's all of their staff. It takes everyone at FPB for us to move forward and provide the exceptional service that we do. So everybody give themselves a pat on the back, and your employees as well.
Well, congratulations to you and your team on that rating. Does anybody have any questions for?
How how many individual reviews?
There were 500 plus. I'm not really sure
Takes a
exactly
while
the
to
exact
move that
number.
needle.
Yeah, we've been sitting at 2.9 for several months, and so when we hit 3, I sent an email out to everybody and we're just like celebrating. So I'm hoping to be back here in a few months to say we have a 4.0. That's our next goal. So we're not going to stop here. We're going to keep it going. Anybody have any questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next is our superintendent telecommunication.
Good evening. The monthly report starts on page 167. We had 4 outages for the month of July. Devil's Hollow area had a blown fuse. We had a bad piece of cable on Versailles Road. We had a lightning strike that did quite a bit of damage over in Inverness. Actually melted most of the equipment in the area. So, and then we had a bad head-end receiver that was affecting services in Ball Knob. Trouble calls low this month. I'd say we'll make up for it next month with a couple of storms we had pushed through, so I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers are a little bit higher. On the next band front, construction's moving along. They're really all over town. They're kind of edging out into the far region. Part of that is to get ready for some of the county stuff, because we don't get middle mile, so we actually have to build to where we stop. So that's why some of those areas are taking more precedence now versus areas closer to town to get ready for that. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Steve?
I guess somebody's watching. I just got a question about when fiber would be in the College Park area.
It is built. I don't know if it's spliced or,
Seriously.
but I can actually follow up and see. But I know it's built because if you go across from the old car wash, you'll see it hanging right there. But yeah, I think all the fiber's been placed. We're waiting on splicing it. The car wash across from K-State, or right there beside K-State. The K-State
Yeah,
tore
but
down.
that's, College Park is over by the football field.
Yeah, but it goes that way. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about
That's
how
where
long
the-
would you estimate?
If we can get everything spliced, it'd probably be a couple more months. It takes a while to get everything spliced, and after we get everything spliced, it has to be tested before we release it, because if we release it without testing it and there's a problem, you're affecting multiple people. So I would say a couple months, but I'll follow up tomorrow and try to give you a firmer date.
That should be enough. That should be
I got somebody on Buffalo Trail wanting service too.
I
So.
just got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess a customer, I was on a walk with a customer at 6 a.m. this morning, and their power went out, and it turned out a telephone pole next to the Capitol snapped in half.
Uh-huh.
Not a telephone pole, an electric pole. Yeah. What caused that? There was no high winds or anything.
I believe it was a tree that fell.
Yeah,
Wow.
Travis
Yeah.
sent an email out about that, so yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And that was pretty important to us. Just following up, that's one of our main arteries coming out of the head end of Tanglewood. And so we were kind of there, sitting down there all day with electric, just wanting to just keep an eye on it, because it would have been a pretty bad outage for us.
So you were sitting out there today watching Travis?
Well, yes.
Make sure-
Be
Making sure they didn't do
Be
it.
gentle, be gentle.
Next is electric department. Ross going to go over some detail. You have a question that Travis offered.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Good evening, Board, Mr. Chair. The electric department departmental report starts on page 171 of your board package there. You can see for the month of July, our SAIDI numbers were 62.5. Flip over to page 172, that kind of breaks that down into the chart. Page 173 gives you the total number of outages for the month and the causes. And page 174, go ahead, it lists the top 10 outages we had by duration, and the total number of customers affected was 1,790 for the month. We did have some high winds this month at the end of the month there that caused those numbers to be a little elevated, a little more than normal, but other than that, this month kind of started off the same way, so we'll see how it goes. As far as the Shelby Street, that was a tree this morning. It broke 3 poles we had to replace, and then we had to rework 6 poles in total, changing out cross arms and stuff like that. So it was quite a bit of work. I think initially we had roughly 61 customers in the Tanglewood Shelby Street area off. We got about half of those on within the first 3 hours, and the rest of them were off till almost 3 o'clock this afternoon. for us to get all that replaced, so. But I'll be happy to entertain any questions you have about the departmental report.
I do want to compliment you and your team. I told Gary about it. I happened to be down at Myrtle after those storms for another meeting, and it was noon, and all the trucks were in the bay. And I thought, why are they here at noon? And then someone told me you all had been out for 20 straight hours, and were just coming in from the morning before,
Yes, sir.
putting stuff on. So I mean, you all put in like a day and a half straight out there, and finally got to come home and go to bed. So compliment your team, because
It is definitely all them. I would put our group alignment up against any in the country. Honestly mean that, so.
I just thought, why are the trucks here at noon? I mean, but you all just got home, so.
Yes, sir. Anything else? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The SEPA report for this month begins on page 175 of your board package. Our total bill from SEPA was $135,532. Our net payment was $243,085 for a profit to FPB of $107,554, which brings us through June of 2024 a net benefit to the plant board of $550,791, which puts us about right on track with where we were at this point last year. I think we're having a pretty good year. I think we're on track where we would want to be. AMI installs 20,046 electric, 13,298 on water, and be happy to answer any questions on either of those.
Any questions for?
And thank you to Russ for the picture y'all saw. He was the one that snapped that picture.
Is there?
Kudos. Thank you.
For KVMEA, I really don't have a lot. I mean, except you have any question, I'm happy to answer that. If it's not, the next is a safety teller.
Good evening. Safety report begins on 179 and 180. We only had one OSHA recordable for the month, and it was the one we discussed last month during the board. Ankle, leg injury in the cable department. And we didn't have any vehicle accidents.
That's
so we're about 2 months straight without a vehicle accident, so that's pretty good.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, not on one somewhere. Yeah. So, but we got some training coming up this Friday. We got a morning and afternoon class if any of the board want to come. Starts at 7 in the morning, and then the other one starts after lunch, probably around noon. About 2 hours of classroom in here, and then we'll get in groups of 3, and then we'll go out there in the front and make a situation into a permanent confined space.
That's where you're gonna lower people in the hole, right?
Yeah, well, you'll climb in there.
Yeah, you don't climb.
Let's hope you climb right back out. But we'll have you hooked up just in case.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions for?
Yeah, anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Next is our water distribution superintendent. Sir B is going to introduce our new superintendent, but he's not new with us, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce our new water distribution superintendent, Bruce Bratton.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Bruce has been with our company for over 23 years. He started as a utility worker 1 and is the ideal employee. He's worked his way from the utility worker 1 to his most recent position, which was water distribution supervisor. His experience has given him such a true knowledge of our system, which is so important for both planning and for responding to emergencies. So I look forward to working with him as the head of the department, and he's here to give us a first water distribution report.
Well, he's coming on at a real slow time too, isn't he? Yeah.
Slightly. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. So if you look at pages 181 through 183 in the board packet, there's 3 items from July that I'll cover. First order was we had 14 new installed water services. We had 6 water main breaks, and of those 6 water main breaks did lead to 4 water outages. Based on some current work we have going on, the Western Hills High School Frank County Gym, the auxiliary gym process, as of today, both of those we're at a stopping point. We have everything installed on our side. We're waiting for the contractor to set the pit, then we'll come back, make connections. So we're waiting on them for that. We are still working on the Derbyshire tie-in over by the fire station. The annual water flushing, as of close today, we're about 95% complete. So approximately 2 days left to finish flushing for the season. And then approximately 78% complete with the AMI project with the water meters. We are going to be moving out into the district. That does sometimes slow some things down. Houses farther apart, driveways. We inherited a lot of the stuff in the district over time, so some of that stuff's not quite to our current way of working operations with meter vaults being accessible, dirt, stuff of that nature. So we do, plan on slowing down a little bit and making that though fixed where it's operable like it should be when we leave that job. So other than that, that's kind of a basic rundown for right now.
Any questions? Look forward to working with you.
I feel like we should ask him some sort of a trick question, Shannon, but I can't think of one right now.
I'll give it for effort.
What's the biggest water leak you know? Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Next is Brandon Power, Water Treatment Plant Superintendent.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of July, the water treatment plant treated 298,603,000 gallons of water for a daily average of 9.63 million gallons a day. Lock 4 averaged 816 cubic feet per second for an average of 527 million gallons, and there were 4 inches of rainfall this month. Happy to answer any questions.
And we're behind, at least when I watch the Louisville channels, we're still behind on rainfall, right?
Yeah.
For the season?
Yeah.
Quick question. The Kentucky River is really low right now, right?
It's low. It's not at a dangerous level, but with 527 million gallons a day going over the dam, we're taking 2% of that. So we're taking a really small portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
So. Thank you.
We don't have any chemicals this month, do we?
No, I will be till about May.
May?
Yeah. Something to look forward to.
That's right. Okay. Does that finish it, Gary? Okay. Item 8.1. Consider approval of electric tariff charges for the net metering credit transfers, time of use pilot program, and area lighting rates. We had the public hearing previously, and have we had any comments, Travis, or changes, or?
Nothing since the meeting. We had a few people comment at one of the hearings in favor of the proposed changes. So the few comments we've received have been positive. I think these are these tariff changes are all going to be well received. And I'll do a brief recap. As you mentioned, we started a few months back. Craig came in and made a presentation. Held the public hearing in June, so this would be the final of the 3 meetings for the tariff change if everything is in order. The time of use pilot program, that's one we've kicked around quite a bit, dating all the way back to when we were talking about some of the purpose standards and ways we can encourage customers to conserve energy, especially when we're on peak. So that's the idea of the time of use rate. It would be completely voluntary. Number one, I think that's first and foremost. Nobody's going to be forced on this. Some places do that. That's very unpopular. So we're lucky we're in a position we don't have to force that on anyone. But more or less the way it would work is you would have a 3-tiered rate instead of your standard bundled energy charge. There would be an on-peak, an off-peak, and a super off-peak rate. And the intent is to get people to use energy off of our system peak. That way we save and they save. We pass those savings on to them. So if you're an active energy user, you watch your bill closely, you pay attention to how you use energy, this type of program may be right for you. Or if you're an EV driver and you can charge your vehicle overnight, you can see tremendous savings. So that was item 1. Again, we've gotten all the feedback we've gotten has been positive so far. Net metering changes, there were a couple items here. One of them was proposed by a local resident. It's where the request initiated. we've had this question a few times over the years and kind of kicked around how we want to handle it. But essentially, we're trying to put some bounds around how do we handle transfer of credit. So the proposed policy is if you are a net metering customer and you have 2 meters on one parcel, so say for instance your house and your garage, some people, you would have a separate meter for each. You can transfer excess net metering credits between those 2 accounts. It's not a situation where you want to put solar panels on one side of town and say, hey, I want to put those on the bill on the other side of town. So there are some bounds around it, but it does allow customers that if you have a nice south-facing garage, but your home uses all the energy, it's kind of an option for you there. The other part of the net metering changes is elimination of the $10 application fee. We've talked about it a bunch. It's just kind of a nuisance. It doesn't help anybody. It just makes it more difficult. So that's essentially the gist of the net metering changes. And the final one was a lighting rate. When we did the cost of service study a few years ago, it was just a typo that got carried through the public hearing. So we went through the process. But that would be correcting the lighting rate for one of our new LED fixtures. Happy to answer any questions on those. I talked to Media Services a couple days ago. We've got a website on time of use rates that's pretty much ready to go. I think it looks great. It breaks down, what it is, why a customer may want it. I think that's going to be a good landing spot for a lot of our customers and a good place to start kind of the media build out of the program. Again, it's just being a pilot program. We're kind of taking baby steps with some of that stuff. We've tested all the metering. We've tested the back-end billing system. We think everything's in place, but again, kind of baby steps, making sure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. But a lot of that has come a long way. Again, the website will be ready any day now.
And refresh my memory, you will have, in order to take advantage of the time of use pilot, you will have to already have your AMI installed, correct?
Yes, you definitely will have to have an AMI meter, correct, yes. And we're 90-ish% of the way there now, but if you're outside of that, we'll get it taken care of.
Yeah,
we'll get enough.
Now, were you all going to handpick some of the, initial folks to give an invitation to kind of kickstart?
My thoughts were maybe open it up to everybody and see kind of what the response is. No one has specifically reached out yet and said, hey, I want to be on this list. It being 200 customers, I feel like we can open it up to anyone and get, the initial interest within that umbrella. But certainly if, people are eager to sign up, I'm sure they're out there and they want to sign up, that would be fine. But I did not, to answer your question, have anybody specifically in mind.
Steve?
Is there a definitive difference between usages between people who will be eligible for this policy? That you might want to get somebody in different categories. I don't know. Maybe
I think one of the things we talked about was folks that have electric vehicles. That was one right off the bat, and we're charging them at home.
Yeah, but that would mean we would have to know. I mean, I kind of like what you said, let people come.
Right.
My question was, are there categories that you see of usage of homes that would be able to do this? And therefore, you might want to get people in different categories of usage. I don't know, maybe that's an irrelevant question.
Who would be, if someone's watching or listening, talking to a friend or whatever, what would the typical customer look like who would benefit from this program?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So the peak rates, the rates you want to avoid, you don't want to use on peak, would be probably during the most obvious times. During the summer months, late evening, early afternoon, if you're the type of person that's willing to turn your thermostat up to 80, that's another thing to consider. There may be sacrifices you have to be willing to make. So some customer says, I'm just not going to do that. Well, then this program is probably not right for you. But so if you work third shift maybe, and you say, well, I'm never home anyway, late afternoon, early evening during the summer, this may be right for you. During the winter periods, that's going to be early morning to kind of mid-morning. That's going to be your super peak rate. Again, if you're an active energy user, you've got the programmable appliances and you can tell your dryer not to run until after midnight. You're going to get huge savings. EV drivers, so those groups of people, and again, I probably should say it's all residential right now. It's a pilot, so we're not extending it to commercial just yet. I think we'll probably want to cross that bridge someday. But so I think those groups of people could come from, you know, lots of different areas. The EV drivers being a big one. Odd shift hour type. You know, if you work odd hours or, you know, not common hours, that would be another one. Or if you're just a super saver and you know you're motivated by, hey, I'll make the sacrifices.
Let me ask you, what if you got in this program and didn't follow it? You know, you got in this program and you still use everything at peak hours. Would you be paying more
If
than if you were just didn't get in the program?
Yes, potentially. I mean, if you've always been the type of person, well, I always use electric at night anyway, then if you don't change anything, then you're great. But if you're not that type of person and you don't make changes, you probably will pay more. Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because that needs to be part of the education of who gets in this program, so they know what the expectations are.
Right. It's really not for everyone. I really hate to say pour cold water on this. It really need a lot of study, understand that your own energy use pattern, and also can you control that yourself or willing to control it. Without that, I think you're going to pay more. That's just my opinion.
For example, say you got in it, and 3 months in you say, I made a bad decision. Can you quit?
My opinion is yes, we should allow that, especially during the pilot period. You know, we're kind of figuring things out too. Why be overly restrictive on customers? There would be there are some practical restrictions on billing cycles, meter read dates, that kind of stuff. But I don't think setting like a term necessarily outside of the practical needs is for the pilot anyway.
One thing actually I forgot to mention, the customer can benefit if you do have like a small battery system put in your house, and then you have you know, really control that based on the time the policy current follow, then I think you can benefit that too directly. But I think in the service, without to spend $10,000-15,000 put a battery system, the potential I can really see is if you have a 2 EV and you can really charge, program it, charge midnight or whatever the lowest use is, and potentially you could use 100 kilowatt or maybe 1,000, hundreds, then you might see the benefit. But I think you can put a pencil in, really calculate that too. Based on your current usage, our average is 1,200. But if you do use a lot more and you can control how do you use it, I think potentially you can benefit if you watch that very carefully.
Let me ask you another question while we're talking about this. If they've got AMI, they can get their history of when they use energy, correct, and when they use electricity.
Correct. Yes.
So they'd be able to put a pencil to a piece of paper and see what they've done for the past few months and get an idea of, you know, in June and July, this is when I use my energy, and you know they could kind of figure that out themselves and figure out whether or not they are willing to make, you know, any of those the sacrifices. Am I going to turn my thermostat up to 78 or whatever? But you know, I like the idea. It gives people options. It truly isn't for everybody, but I think we're just giving people more options to reduce their energy bill, and I think it'll really, really help some people, and it's really no skin off our nose. And as much energy as we can take off our peak, the better. So, you know.
And to your point, they could do their own study, especially if it's a family and you sit your kids down and they're like, we're going to try this for a couple weeks before I sign up. Let's see if we can really make this change.
Yeah.
And as long as I mean, to be honest, if they make a bad decision, there's a way out.
Yeah.
So.
Right, and I should also mention as well, the rate design that 1898 did for us was, the intent was it would be revenue neutral to the plan board. So if the customer does need to go on or off the program, we're not really harmed
Right.
in terms of our revenue. We started with a truly cost-based design. Your off-peak versus on-peak was like a 5-to-1 ratio. Their recommendation was that's a little too heavy. So we kind of tweaked the numbers, as you always do with a cost of service study. You start with cost base, and then you do a rate design. The rate design was intended to be revenue neutral, so I don't think anybody's harmed if we have to make those changes.
One thing I like suggest, if any customer sign in, I would like to have a discussion with them, let them understand all this potential, and ask them a question directly. Have you done a study?
Yeah.
Do you understand this what it means? Because blankly sign in, then the result may be surprise.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Adopted.
Thank
Travis,
you.
thanks for all your work on this.
Appreciate it.
Next is consider award of bid number 1810 for PVC pipe to CAASI Flow Control for $519,984. Ms. Dutta.
So I'm going to actually request the board to table this item. Midway has recently contacted me. They want to do some further evaluation on the pipe manufacturers. The two low bidders are actually manufacturers that they're not familiar with. So we're doing some reference checks and doing a little bit more evaluation. So I hope to bring that, hopefully if there's a special board meeting before September, we'll bring it back then or just bring it back in September.
Because we'll get to it later. It's very likely we might need to have a special meeting in a week, 10 days or so on another matter. So, and Sharmista told me earlier today that she was going to ask to defer this item, and we have this other item, so that might work out. We can have a special meeting dedicated just to Sharmista.
Excited.
8.3, consider approving Ovation Extension. Harvey, you haven't been with us in a long time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm covering for Harvey tonight.
Harvey, he's in Nashville. He's in Nashville, isn't he?
I think he's in Nashville. I'm handling some Harvey items tonight, and
I mean, not that you're not good hands, but it's just not the same.
If I might ask the board consider items 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 together, since they share some common characteristics.
Is this like the consent agenda?
And that they are. I don't know if it's a consent
General
agenda.
Assembly, or?
I don't know if it's exactly a consent agenda, but they share some common characteristics in that they are existing programming agreements that are being extended to our NCTC agreements, and one is just a direct amendment to extend the term, and the rate increases are accounted for in the budget. They have Ovation's an NCTC agreement, and it deals with some kind of contemporary cultural type programming. The other two are the big ticket ones. You've got your Red Zone and your Big Ten network there for the fall. So those are the two important renewals I would think for this evening. But I just kind of ask a motion to approve 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 for those renewals if we could.
Mr. Chairman, on this vital matter of import, that my son thinks this is the most important thing I do every year at this job, is approving the NFL Network and Red Zone channel, because it's if you haven't watched it, it's like crack for watching football players. It's just it's nonstop. I would make a motion, if no one has any questions, I'd make a motion to approve the agreements outlined in items 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 as presented in the board packet.
Does anybody have any questions of Hans or to Steve's son? I mean, to John's son about that.
Well, I am John's son. So let me just, is it $50 a month for the Red Zone?
No, it's
more than that.
No, it's $1 and well, I can't say what it is. It's a small amount ordinarily. There's an a la carte provision if you don't want to get it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the a la carte.
But but I don't know if we even do that. I think the option is there for us to do it, but that's if someone wants to get that channel and that channel only, and I don't know if we do that or not. I think it's just part of the agreement that they have out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's on a
It's
tier, it's on a tier up in the 700s with 3 or 4 other channels. And that's the way we sell ours.
Well, it's addictive, for sure.
So, we have the omnibus motion here for 3
There
items.
you go.
Does anybody want to strip any of those items out and vote separately, or do we have a motion for all 3?
So moved.
Yeah, we had a motion.
We had a motion.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second.
Second,
So we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Adopted.
Thank you, sir.
Spectacular job, Hans.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. It looks like I have one more perhaps here.
Okay.
This is one that, it's item 8.6. It's the privacy policy, and it's for the new app that's being rolled out. Kind of Adam, I think, knows much more about the technical side of things, but it allows customers to manage their Wi-Fi and so forth. This is just the privacy policy that goes along with that. This is just what you have to scroll down through and click agree. Harvey and I kind of looked at some sample policies. This policy is acceptable to our provider, and it's what you have to get into the Apple and Google stores. So I'd ask for a motion to approve items 8.6, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Got it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Next item is consider approving changes to compensation plan trouble call policy. This was on the agenda last month, and because we had a quorum, but everybody wasn't here, the board members that were here that night elected to defer this so that we could bring it back to the full board. This is, I think, we've all understand that our current policy for the on-call people in water, electric, and so forth needs to be updated to be in step with other utility companies. So this basically is an increase in that. Travis, I know, and Charmista have looked at, talked to their employees. There is one option that would make a slight decrease in cost, and that would be right now is to pay 1 hour of on-call pay during Monday through Friday, 2 hours and a half on Saturday, 2 hours and a half on Sunday. And this is when you call the foreman out. One option would be that the first hour you're called out on the weekend would be credited against the 2.5. The other option would be just you get the full 2.5. And I know Travis, Charmista have told me when the foreman get called out, they're going to be out 4 or 5 hours. I mean, it's something major. It's not a routine call. It's a bigger item. I think the net cost maybe goes down, what, Michelle, maybe $12,000 total annually?
Yeah, $4K for electric, about $11K for water, and
Yeah.
a couple thousand for telecom.
So that's the option. So we can either adopt it as presented, we can make that modification if we want to adopt the policy. But I think right now we're at $180 a week for somebody to be told they have to be home every night. They're on call usually 1 week a month. And for somebody to be told you go home at night, you can't come back, you can't leave the county, you gotta be on call. And on the weekends, you gotta basically be in the county at home. I don't get me wrong, I mean, they're being compensated, but you're basically told that week, you're there. And you could go home, get called back out an hour later, or you could be sitting at home on a Saturday or Sunday gonna do something, take your family somewhere in town, you can't leave town. And then you're called out and you're gone all day. So I mean, it's disruptive to, somebody when you're on call that weekend, so. Did I explain it?
Yes, sir.
So what's the board's pleasure on how to proceed?
I'm fine with either of the two options of improvement. I don't have a strong preference for either one. I do know right now one of the things is that our current policy certainly lags way behind everybody, all the other utilities that are out there. So I'm fine doing either one. I don't have a strong preference for either one. I don't know if if the modification that was explained about the 1 hour being charged back, I'm fine proposing that. I'm fine going the other direction. I really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a difference.
John, what's the estimated annual cost of those two scenarios?
When as proposed, Nichelle, isn't it about 90,000 a year?
Yes, 93,000.
93.
Yeah.
And the other one was like 80.
Take it to about 80 total.
Take it
down to about 12. That's about the range. It's based on our, but I think that's about the range.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate Charmista and Nichelle Sharmista and Travis have talked to the employees, they've gone over it, and, you know, I think the employees, you know, would appreciate, I think, like John said, there needs to be a change, it's just a matter of what policy we want to adopt. And Sharmista and Travis are here if anybody wants to ask them any questions about it. I mean, one day Nichelle said I kidnapped her and took her down to Myrtle for a meeting on this. That's true. She walked out to the car, and I told her, just get in the car, we'll go down to Myrtle, and we'll just... To which Michelle kept saying, where are we going?
That cost you mentioned, Steve, remember, we're paying $37,000 now with our current policy, so that's not the, you know, our current policy cost us $37,000.
On here it says that the additional cost is $25.27.
Right.
That's the additional,
A
which
week.
takes you to $94,000 annually.
No, the difference is 1807 weekly.
Yeah, that's the difference. So right now with 720 times 12, so right now it comes
Okay,
to-
1807 weekly times 52 is how much?
Oh, okay. So the different, the additional cost is $9,000. I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm sorry,
But
Steve.
I will say this. I'm not saying they don't need more money. Although I know some private companies do not pay anything to be on call. Some major private companies don't do it. But $94,000. We've been talking about money this today, and that's $94 just like that. And that's just my thought.
Well, I'd like-
I'm going to pose a question. Can we require somebody to be on call and not pay them? Can we restrict where they can go and not compensate them for that?
There's a
I mean, there's federal labor standards involved there, aren't there?
there's a case out of Louisville. I gave it to Nichelle, so she's got the file, but it's out of dealt with the police department down there, and it's the phrase I can't think of it, it's waiting. It's waiting to be engaged or engaged to be waiting.
Right.
And the case out of Louisville was, it came up after there was some, I can't remember what time, it came up after some demonstrations, and the police chief told people, you got to stay in town, you got to be here.
Right.
And the rule was that they said, you know, you had to be there, just very similar to our circumstances. You had to be there, but they weren't so restricted. You could still go out to eat, you could still go out to Walmart, whatever you need to do, but you weren't so restricted that you had to be paid. So
Well, I mean,
that was the
this.
that
No
was
one
a-
has evidence that anyone stays home. I mean, you just have to be at a certain point.
And so
when
you're not
called to be there.
So you're not restricted in that. That's correct. So you're not that. You don't have to be at home. You can be at the
You can do
restaurant.
whatever you want to do as long as you can get at
As
a
you can
point
get there.
where you're supposed to be
So
when called.
So it's correct. You're correct. That's why some companies don't choose to pay that. But I think industry, you know, the utility business is
Yeah, but because I asked somebody who works for a private company, and they said it's part of the employment when you were hired. That was part of the expectation when you were hired. So I'm not opposed to money. I just $94,000 difference in what they're doing, what they're being paid now versus what we're proposing to pay them, and that's, you know, you're talking about ratepayer money. That's ratepayer money.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this compensation plan with the modification of
With the credit for the
with
first
credit
hour
for the
on the
first
weekend.
hour.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Adopted. Okay. Next one is consider approving revisions to FPB's 401A defined contribution plan. This again is something that we discussed at the last meeting and held over to this meeting. And I think the issue that we had the last time we discussed it was whether we need to follow ERISA rules, whether we want to have a graduated vesting period, or use the one that I think Hans, you researched that said we'd be, I don't want to say safest, but the one that had the most, I don't know what you want to call it. Certainty, yeah,
Perfect.
would be the 3-year certain policy.
There were two. There were two policies in that in the ERISA guidelines that would give you some certainty. And then I'd send a memo to Mr. Mason and the rest of the board about the applicability of ERISA. I'd probably still stick with kind of the ERISA type structure, just because it's a sort of a there's certainty with it.
The
So,
3-year
but
flat policy.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
But I think you got some flexibility. I know Katrina and I had a brief call with a benefits lawyer down at Frost Brown about it, and those are kind of the options that we thought were best to recommend.
So all three options that are listed are ERISA compliant. So you
Okay.
have the graduating vesting, or for the third option is the cliff vesting.
So ERISA is, tell me who it applies to.
It applies to private people.
Okay. Okay, that's all I was
Yeah.
describing.
Private sector.
I think any of the three. I particularly like the 3 just because it's very simple to
Yeah,
explain
I think so
to a new employee. 3 years is the number. I mean, not 20% for it's a straight out easy rule to follow, and this would only apply to new employees, correct, Michelle?
Yes.
If you're already here and you're you're under you're already vested day 1.
Yes.
But anybody new hired would be under 3 on the 3-year plan.
Yes.
And eventually, if the people already here get to 3, they're going to be fine anyway. But they would have the ability to leave between now and 3 years of service and take our match with them. Correct? An existing employee.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
existing, yes.
But the new employees, if they left before 3 years, they take their money, they
But
put in,
not ours.
but not any of ours.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I do like option 3. I think it's the easiest, less to keep track of for our payroll people and all that stuff. If there's no other questions, I'd make a motion that we go approve the vesting schedule using option 3 as discussed under item 8.8.
And then there is a second recommendation as well under this.
Okay.
And so the staff also recommends a change to the FPB contribution. Staff recommends a contribution of 2%. Do you want me to go over that, or? Okay. Of the employee salary, regardless of employee participation. The Tier 3 employees towards their retirement goals. In addition, staff recommends another potential 2% match if the employee defers money themselves. This will be a dollar-for-dollar match up to a maximum of 2%.
Right.
So what that basically says is, therefore, if the employee contributes 2%, the company would contribute 4% for a total of 6%.
And we're not creating, like in a pension plan, we're not creating any inviolable contract. This is solely being adopted for recruitment and retention of Tier 3
Yes.
people. And we have the discretion to not put any new money in or reduce the amount at any time. Is that correct, Hans?
Yes, sir.
All right, Michelle, which of these 3 options do you prefer?
I do like number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
But since literally you'll be the one dealing with it, you
Yes.
prefer number 3. Okay. Is that pretty common in the industry?
I can't. There was an article, and it talked about 35 companies, and a lot of those companies were immediate. The employees were vested immediate from day 1. So.
Well, option 2 doesn't, I guess I'm just going between option 1 and 3, but Michelle, if you're thinking option 3 is what you prefer to administrate, and you think the staff, new employees would like that.
Yeah, because when we did the survey again, one of the questions was, how long would you remain employed to receive the free employer 401A contribution? And so required eligibility does not matter. 19 people answered that. And then the required eligibility amount of time, they would stay the required amount of time, and 31 chose that one. So with that thought, like again, if we're trying to retain, you want to make sure from year 1 to 3, we keep retention, and then after that.
Let me ask you a totally unfair question, which I frequently do.
Okay.
From your experience, if we keep an employee 3 years, what's the likelihood they stay on? normally from what you see, when employees get hired and leave quickly, is it usually within that 1 to 3 window? Or is it
To be
after that,
honest,
or?
it depends on the department.
Okay,
At one point in time in electric, it was because they were able to gain their experience here
Mhm.
and then go to another utility.
Mhm.
So for them, it was a little different.
okay.
But everywhere else, as far as like customer service, it doesn't seem as if we have a lot of turnover there. So the only thing that I could really say would be like the electric area, and they were looking before the 3 years, or at least at 2 years or so.
I'm sorry,
Steve?
what did you say at the end for electric? How long, where do you see it, the turnover year?
It would be around the 2nd year or so.
Okay.
See, the thing is, we're calling this something to incentivize someone to stay. 3 years, you'll probably get trained. In electric, you're probably training someone who might be looking at KU after the 3 years of training. So you're gonna give them 100% of your money after 3 years, when most people would be training and looking. There is no incentive not to leave after 3 years if you're getting all of the plan board's money in 3 years. I mean, there's no incentive.
So you're looking at option 1 then?
I mean, if I want to look at it, it's going to be option 1.
And in that one, at 3 years, you could still take 60% of it.
I don't really like that, but of the 3
Well,
options,
if you,
know.
you should like option 2, because option 2 only gives them 40% after
That's
3
the one
years.
I
True,
like.
okay, well, yeah, you're right, I didn't see that. I like,
That's hardcore.
I like
That's
2.
hardcore,
I like
yeah.
2
Yeah.
better.
I do too,
I like 2 better.
Okay.
but
fine with me.
I can,
I'm,
be flexible on this.
For ease of, I'm gonna go ahead and withdraw the motion I made earlier.
Okay.
So we're done.
back open again
I'm
for
gonna
motions.
withdraw that motion. So somebody else wants to make a motion, have at it.
Mr. Mason, you want to make a motion?
No, I don't. 'Cause I don't particularly like any of them, really.
All right, well, I'm
But,
gonna make a motion.
I will accept one of them.
I'll jump in here. I'm making motion to adopt option 2.
Okay.
With
Make
the,
a counter motion? Is that a thing?
no counter motion. Now, does that include the increase in the other increases out there?
Contributions,
Yes.
Which I think balances it.
So the motion on the floor is for option 2 with the additional matching. So we have that. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's adopted.
And I just want to make one statement.
Okay.
Just so everyone is clear, so the effective date of the start of the new approved 401A plan is pending completion of necessary administrative paperwork, documentation signing, and then we'll communicate with staff and employees the start date of the
Okay.
new 401A plan.
So when is this?
As soon as they can get it, soon as they get the paperwork updated. So.
Shouldn't we set a date? Shouldn't we set the date?
I believe we have to amend the plan.
I mean, how long?
I mean, with it.
It'll be an official plan document. We need to come back and get approved. Is that right?
Or do you think you could have, or if we adopted saying to make it effective 10/1, would you be ready by then to implement?
I don't know, because it depends on nationwide. We have to work with them.
Okay.
So that's why I don't have a concrete date.
So it'd be simpler just to, we've adopted the motion, come back in September with an effective date after you talk to Nationwide? Would that be?
Yep.
You'll come back with new policy documents, correct, or new plan documents from Nationwide to approve, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Hopefully we can have it done by then, but again,
Okay.
it's at their discretion.
Hmm.
Okay.
And there was the
Next
other,
one.
The other component, the 2%.
Pardon?
That
That
was
was in
part
there.
of that
She rolled
motion,
it in.
Sorry, I missed that.
which
She
was,
rolled
I
still
said it
waiting in the
balanced it.
vote, so, okay, cool.
Next one, 8.9, consider Corn Ferry compensation study results. We've had this on the agenda, we talked about it, again, we passed over this at the June meeting. And this would basically be to either adopt Corn Ferry, and I think I would encourage that at this meeting, we either adopt it or not, because I know Nichelle's got several actions where she's looking that if we adopt the new schedule, it will have an impact in terms of some of the hard to recruit classifications we're looking at. And the total cost of implementing it is about half of what it was originally, because we gave because of the COLAs on July 1st, moved some of the people in that initial bump that were outside the schedule, move them up above the new minimum. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes. So now, instead of having 27 people, we have 18 people that will receive an increase. And that estimated cost, came to 35,000. Well, let's say 36,000 to bring those individuals to the minimum.
Okay.
And then in addition, we also had the change order where Korn Ferry would work on the policies, updating our current compensation policy, the training that you had asked about. They'll train us, and the training for 3 HR employees comes to $6,750. But everything in that complete change order will be revising our compensation policy, 12 hours of support, and training, and then there's an administrative fee, and so all that comes to $22,971, and that's to complete. So initially, we had them review our current plan. They reviewed our plan, and now to move forward to implement their compensation plan is that additional cost of the $22,971, and then you also have the cost to bring the employees to the minimum.
And I know it's, this is additional cost, but I think we have struggled for years with the fact that we've got various classifications. And this does put electric, water, IT, telecom in a different set of classification, competing with the private sector as opposed to some of the other administrative jobs, which are more tied to really another salary type compensation. And we've always struggled with those areas where we're basically competing with the private sector and trying to keep our salaries updated. Korn Ferry is not cheap, and I know people a lot of times get frustrated, but they are doing the state government system. So this, in fact, kind of puts us into where at least our system ought to be competitive with what state government's doing.
Yes.
In terms of, because they're doing that work for state government and have now for several years. So they have access to that data, and I know there are times we've struggled to get access to some of that data. So, I think there's some advantages there. So we can either adopt this or we just stay with where we are right now, which we can do. But I think Michelle's at the point now where she needs to either move forward with this, if we're going with this, or just say, fine, we looked at it, we studied it, we liked it, but we're not gonna do it. It's one of those things. I think this month we need to give you some definitivity on where you're headed.
Yes, sir.
Would that be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
That's what triggered our famous discussion that day in the parking lot.
Yes.
Yes. So.
And Michelle, not to be a broken record, I assume you want to move forward with the
Yes.
plan after all this work. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think to sum up what she told me, at this point she wants to move forward with something. And I think you think this system has advantages, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so once you make a decision today, again, staff will come back with, like I said, we have to revise the policy, and so you would get to look at what the actual compensation plan and structure looks like. Because again, I haven't been privileged to that because
Right.
we
You
haven't.
gotta pay to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So John, how much have we paid Korn Ferry today, and how much will we have to pay them going forward annually?
So as of when they did the review, we paid them $55,860. This additional $22,971 would take us to $78,831. I asked in the future what could be a potential cost. So every year for them to assist with the cost of living discussion and increase, it was an estimate of $2,000. And then every 3 to 5 years to look at the plan just to make sure that we are still within market based on Korn Ferry pricing for 2024, because they say that their pricing changes. So just based on this pricing, it's $30,000 to $35,000.
And that'd be every 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
And again, the annual amount and the 3 to 5 would be at the board's discretion, correct?
Yes.
If we adopt their plan, I know we'd want to keep it updated, But we're not required to have to purchase that if we don't want to,
No,
correct?
no.
Okay. Can I make a motion that we go ahead and adopt this?
I'll second it.
We have a motion second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. It's adopted. Ms.
Thank
Brown,
you.
you want to talk about anything else?
No, sir.
You just want to go home, don't you? Thank you. 8.10, consider approval of Next Band Ambassador Program. Gary, did you want to talk about this?
I can briefly, but I do need David, other people go
Sure.
into detail if you have a question. Really, we, the board approved for the last couple of years, we rebuilt our network. It's a fiber to home. And we believe in that, that's the best, not only now and in the future, for the, not necessarily the higher speed, it's a quality of life, education, everything for this community. But we like people really try that, use it, then have a taste, have a really feel to see the benefit. So that's mainly, we can say selfishly, we want to grow the market, we want more revenue to support this program, but same time, we really like people enjoy it. We really believe in that too. I really appreciate that most board members try that. We encourage it. I think most of you already signed it. I remember our mayor signed that first in the beginning. But we like all our citizens can benefit from it. That's mainly if we want to go to detail. But it's encourage our customer, encourage our employee, really want to grow that to every household to benefit from it. David, you want to? Oh, you have, we've been already shared with you for quite a while for this program. We've been considered, even studied for quite a while. The name of the program not come from Gary or David. This is come from the marketing group. There are more people being used similar program, right? Successfully. So I will probably leave there. If you have any questions, or David spent a lot of time with our customer service and the telecommunication group too, to study, to make sure this present to you, we can have 100% confidence.
I mean, I think the bottom line is what this program basically does, correct me if I'm wrong, is incentivize our employees, not top management, but incentivize our employees and our customers to in fact help us recruit new customers, which is, to be honest, is pretty common with our competitors. And we're basically saying, you bring us a new customer, we'll give you, some amount that we can almost immediately recover on the new customer's rate. And the idea is to turn our employees and our customers into helping us sell our service. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line, and that's, in a lot of industries, that's not unusual. I mean, you call it a referral fee, a bird dog fee, I mean, you can call it anything you want, but it basically says, you go help us get more customers. And and what are you talking about giving a customer or employee, how much for a new customer?
So for a existing NextBank customer, an FPB NextBank customer,
Right.
when they refer a brand new customer to FPB, they would receive a $50 credit.
Right.
When they refer a existing internet customer that converts to NextBand, it would be a lesser $30 fee.
Okay.
So we have a significant amount of current customers. We want all of those to convert to NextBand. Those are at 30. Brand new customer that's been with a competitor or decides they need internet service for the first time, those are ones we really like at $50.
So, and the value, the monthly fee for a brand new internet customer at a minimum is how much?
If coming in at NextBand,
NextBand.
So you can get 300 meg depending on where you're coming in. We have promotions that can get you low as $50 for
So first
a
month.
300 symmetrical up and down, and which is a very nice service. What we have today in modem it works great, but is a superior service with a symmetrical up and down load. And
So bottom line, with the rebate, referral fee, whatever we want to call it, we're net even the first month.
Correct. And we
Any
think-
month after that, we're ahead.
We think the service is solid, is really good, and we think
Oh,
people
yeah.
will stay with us.
Yeah.
Is there a
and-
cap on how many people you can refer?
There was a discussion about that. Some programs, when you look around, you can do a quick search and find dozens of these with other telecom companies. The thought process initially was not to have a cap. We want to encourage people to refer. So if you are on fire and have a lot of people you refer, then that's what we're looking for. That was the thought process. If there was an employee, that's on the customer side. On the employee side, if someone is really going at it and referring customers left and right, that's what we want. So you could do a cap. We could build this thing however you would like it. We've put out an initial proposal. We had FAQ that I thought helped kind of explain the way it's structured initially out of the gate. And one of the things is that this is a fluid program that would be under the oversight of the GM. We would have all the data we need to evaluate, is the program achieving the goals we're looking to achieve? If it's not, can we adapt it and see how that works? So this can be molded into whatever we want it to be, but we try to put together something we think that was relatively simple to administer and accomplishing our goal.
Steve?
Given that the relatively low overhead costs with their service, you're gonna make your money back the first month.
Yeah.
So if someone can bring 100 people in here, you still probably gaining $20 that month. Given the overhead cost of what you're providing, I have no problem with that. I did have one question though. Why not give the employees the money on their bill, because they get all the money that way? If the way they get it now, they're getting 75% maybe. Then it's a tax issue somewhat with it.
That was brought up. Quickly, you think that's pro-employee. Most of our employees, though not all of our employees, are in our next band territory, so they would not be able to receive a bill credit. And also, there could be some IRS implications with benefits and payroll.
Okay.
So, to an employee, it would be tracked and paid out in the normal payroll process with all applicable taxes being taken out.
I just did an extremely detailed spreadsheet, and if an employee or customer, someone went and got us 10 clients, they get $500 from us, and we'd gross $6,000 for the year, so we'd net $5,500 on 12 months.
What is the process for determining who brought that customer in?
Yes, so there would be an email sent to the customer. They would need to be in my FPB portal customer. There would be an email generated, so you would need their email address of the person being referred. Send the referred person an email, and then they would then respond to the email, and it would naturally link it to the person that referred them. And there is not the ability to multiply or to duplicate credits. The employee side, we would develop a separate portal that would allow that process to occur from the employee side. So it would be a one-time, directly through email, link to who provided. There's not a question of what dispute between who was getting the referral fee.
Okay. So if I wanted to refer somebody, I would have an email link, and I would forward it to them, and I would sort of record that.
Yeah, so the referring customer will log in. Let me read my FAQ, that's even better. A referring customer will log in to the MyFPB customer portal and click Refer a Friend from the fiber internet tile on the dashboard.
Cool.
And the referring customer will enter and submit the referred customer's information, their name and email address, to deliver a one-time use referral code to the referred customer's email. Referred customer would provide the referral code during a fiber internet service request, either on MyFPB customer portal or for a CSR interaction or in person in our office. And the referring customer must be an FPB customer portal user, and the referring customer must have an active fiber service to generate a referral code.
So it wouldn't make sense to look at this for electric or water because that's tied to their address. But what about other services, security, phone, are there other things that, if we're going to do this, are there other things that we can link in to help promote?
With the next band service, everything will run through the fiber connection. Everything will be voice over IP. Everything will be linked to that fiber connection. So we think once you get the fiber connection, there's really...
Right. Okay. Awesome. Okay.
You may want to add board of directors to the exception.
Exception?
Of the,
If you all go out and really tear it up, I mean, that, I don't know.
well, I mean, probably should be with you all.
I don't know, Steve, I think that's our job, isn't it, as ambassadors to the community
Yeah.
already, so.
All right. Well, you get a benefit from that.
You've earned the
Okay, all right.
benefit.
This is our duty, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, people really want that, but I think it's okay. I'm happy just to
I
promote.
just look at the appearance, but anyway.
Okay.
We don't need no stinking referral.
You can still refer without getting the incentive.
We'll send you a nice thank you note though.
I think, Steve, your wife can always send the link.
True.
So does anybody have any other questions on this? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved. I think, number one, so moved. I think it's a great idea. Thank you for bringing this to us, putting this together.
There's no harm in trying it, I mean,
Not at
so.
all.
I'll second
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Kathy, that was
Adopted.
enthusiastic, you want to add the little exclamation point after that.
Item 8.11, consider wage increase for general manager. This was deferred from last month. Last month, we accepted Gary's evaluation, and we also accepted and adopted his evaluation plan for this coming year. We did defer this until everybody was here. I'd like to make a motion that we award Gary the same increase that other employees got, 3.5%. Obviously, it's open. We don't have to do a thing, do we, Gary?
I'll second that.
But
I do have a question about that. Do we want to make that retroactive to July 1st when all the employees got
yes,
it?
I think so. I mean, I think if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the motion is to award Gary's a wage increase of 3.5% effective 7/1/24.
Yep.
And I second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations, Gary.
Thank you.
The next one, and
I see down here, the Georgetown water contract is.
Yes. Here's where
this
we.
thing we've been working on
Yes.
for 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was informed by their chairman this afternoon, and Charmista confirmed it, that their board adopted the proposed agreement today. It's en route back to us, or it's already here. And Charmista is going to circulate that around, her and Kathy, so everybody can look at it. Make sure everybody here is fine with it. It's basically what we've looked at all along, which extends the agreement. They're going to use more water. They're getting a rate decrease. It's got some triggers in it to where the agreement can also be extended automatically. So it's basically what we'd hope for. It's good for us. I think it's good for the Georgetown people. Georgetown's been good to work with. They've been our customer, 30?
Since 1990.
1990, so they've been good to work with, and I think they're anxious to do it. So this and what we talked about earlier, the water valves or the piping for Midway, as soon as Charmista can get this contract circulated to everybody, if you got any questions, ask Charmista. As soon as everybody's ready and you can get it lined up on whatever pipes we got to do for Midway, if everybody's good, we'll call a special meeting. We can do it by Zoom, and we can adopt it and get it back to them. So,
Okay.
and Charmista's up there. If y'all have any questions you want to ask her.
Well, I just want to make a statement. Thank you, Charmista.
Yes.
I've been on the board for 3 years, and this has been, the public doesn't know this, a lot of our private meetings. We have a lot of discussion around this. You've done a masterful job of negotiating this and moving it through. So thank you very much. It's so much work.
In the words of Charmista,
so
she
much
was
work,
sitting
so
at a
much work.
restaurant working on numbers, and she said, "Are we really going to do this sitting at this table?" So she has done a heck of a job on this. So.
And I would add, our chairman's had
Yeah.
many
Oh, so I was gonna
lunches
say-
in
Yeah.
Georgetown
Yeah.
over this.
Yeah, much credit goes to Mr. Cuba. So just for the public that's watching, we've had a partnership with Georgetown since 1990. Since that time, we've had 3 addendums to the contract, which were primarily just extending the term of the contracts. And as Mr. Cuban explained, this 4th addendum includes increasing their minimum purchase requirement and extending the term of the agreement. So he said
Also reduces their rate, but it'll still be a net positive for us to the bottom line, correct?
Exactly. I took a 4-year average, and it equals that 4-year average that we've had. So
Yeah,
it steadies out the revenue stream.
Excellent.
And it takes the contract the current contract would expire in 2030. This takes it to 2035
2034.
and 2034, and then the
10 more
trigger
years.
kicks in, what, 2032?
Yes.
And I think the key to mention that we've talked about in private and have been educated on is the capacity of our ability to produce water.
Mhm.
Basically,
Yes.
it's just all.
We've
it's
got
all
it
good.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just all profit, basically.
Yeah.
So it's very good for everybody.
Yeah, and they've been very good to work with, so.
Yeah.
And so we're not voting on this, just, it's kind of informational right now, because everybody needs a chance to review what they voted on today, so everybody can look at it. And if everybody's good, we can call a special meeting and then also deal with that pipe issue on Midway. The next issue, first, Gary, do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, thank you.
Okay. The next item is is Darren still here?
Yes.
The next one is, I was riding around one day, minding my own business, and Mr. Snyder called me and said, you need to go down there and look at the Broadway Bridge.
Are you sure you weren't walking on the bridge at the time,
No,
John?
no,
Are you sure?
no, I was riding around, but I went down there, and since things have moved very quickly, so Sharmista, Darren, y'all want to update what happened down there and what we're working on?
Sure, yeah, our information is much more important than mine.
Well, as the public is aware, there's been some debris falling from the Broadway Bridge's sidewalk and railing. So as a result, they've shut down the river, they've completely closed off the area, which has been closed off for a while. And KYTC is moving to demolish the bridge as soon as possible. So originally, I've been bringing this project to you several times throughout the last several months. And we had planned on we have an active 8-inch line on the bridge now that is necessary, that we can't serve Bell Point area without that line in service. So the plan was we had basically the whole fiscal year to have time to relocate the water line onto the US 127 Clinton Street Bridge. Now, with this increased demolition schedule, they're hoping to have it demolished within the next 2 months. We're looking for an emergency connection to get something for water. So we've reached out to the railroad a couple of times saying it's an emergency. Can we just temporarily relocate our water line onto your bridge? They've told me no twice. I've tried a couple times. So now we're looking at backup options. The most feasible option at this time is to connect the existing water line on Signal Ridge Road, which is up in Riverbend, and bring it down about 1,000 feet to tie into Payne Street, which is in Buttermere Hill. Benefit for that is it does provide a second water line feed to Buttermere Hill, and so I've had several meetings with different entities. I've met with the property owner that we would need to cross to extend that water line from Signal Ridge to Payne Street. I met with the county road department today, Gene Wilburn and Autumn, the new planning and zoning director, along with Ben Judah. There is a plan to do a road extension at some point, because if the river ever floods, Buttermere Hill residents really don't have a way out. So, and then as far as Taylor Avenue has remained closed all this time, the fire department doesn't have access as well. So it would be a benefit in the future to have a road there. So we met with them to possibly, if they had a road route, we were like, well, we'll just parallel your road route and we could just kind of have everything in one corridor. They're not ready yet. They're not ready to do the road, but they did agree that we could go ahead and construct along the right of way. So we will plan on doing maybe 5 to 10 feet off the edge of right of way. I do need to work with the property owner. He has some conditions as far as crossing to his property, so I'm working through that, and I'll probably bring that to Gary and discuss with him as far as what steps we need to take as far as getting across that one property owner. But we have the pipe in stock. We do have to do a couple extra material orders because we are going from a higher pressure zone to a lower pressure zone, requires some pressure reducing valves and so forth. So there's a lot of work going into it, but we're moving as quickly as we can so we can get that line relocated so they can take the bridge down.
Any questions for Sharmista?
Since the line originally, my understanding was that Cabinet would be paying for some of the relocation cost for the permanent relocation on the Clinton Street Bridge. This temporary thing, since their demolition of the bridge will require this emergency extension to make sure that service is not cut off, are they going to foot the cost of any of that or not?
They have said they would include the cost for this emergency connection in their project cost. However, there may be some conditions on that too. One of the questions were, can we just do a temporary pipe on the ground? So I've been exploring that option as well. So we'll have to look at the cost. If we were to just rent a pipe, lay it on the ground, insulate it for about, I think they're saying roughly 6 months, and then compare it to us just going ahead and putting a line in the ground. So they have asked us to look at that difference.
Let me ask you a question. Would there be any way they could give us the cost of that, and then we could go ahead and bury the line and, just use that to defray the cost, because I think from the way you explained it, having a permanent line there as kind of a backfill would be a very beneficial thing for us.
It will, so.
So you might want to see if they're amenable to saying, if they'll give us, that what ends up being 35 or 40% or 25% of it, we could have a permanent asset from this, and maybe something good will come out of it.
And I did get some pricing on that today as well, so
Good.
I'll be able to put all those numbers together.
And with, if possible, I'd like to ask the board to authorize Gary to spend up to $150,000, which it's our understanding we're going to be reimbursed, but to spend up to $150,000 under our procurement policy to make whatever necessary purchases, contractors, pipes, whatever necessary to get this done, because Charmista's on a quick timeline, because Transportation's going to try to issue their contract, in 2 weeks?
They want to let the contract on August 30th. So yeah,
August 30th, and then the contractor is supposed to get that bridge down, so we've got to get ahead of that, and we can bring those purchases back for everybody to review, but I think Gary and Charmista need some running room to act and go, like the reducer valves, they need to be able to get some people in here and get the work done. So with that, could I get a motion on that?
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And then the last one, and this is a compliment to Charmista, last Thursday night, I get a call from the mayor. And it's a routine call, like, what's going on with the water line? And so Gary and I and Charmista went down on, Friday afternoon? Was it?
Was
Whatever.
it this week, wasn't it?
It was
It was
last
Friday.
week?
Yeah, you're
Last
right.
Friday, yeah,
Friday.
I'm sorry. Last Friday, and briefed him on what was going on, so forth. And I thought it was very appropriate. The mayor made the compliment and looked at Charmista. He said, I should have known you all would have had it and know what to do. And I think that was very good, because he felt very good about Charmista. Said, you need some paperwork, some documents. And he said, no, I feel good. He said, thank you for what you, so I think that was good, because Charmista had maps, showed him things, and said, here's where we're gonna do it, and I think he was worried, rightfully, was something gonna happen bad in Bell Point or whatever, so good work on you and your whole team. And then Darren, has been there the whole time with the transportation, with the emergency management people on the waterway, the bridge, everything that's going there, and kind of keeping us linked to all that. So Darren, you have done a great job too on keeping everything backed up, so. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? It's only 8:30.
You want to?
Oh, yes.
September?
Does anybody, John's gonna have a small conflict, the September 17th meeting. Would you all be okay if we moved it to the 16th, the day before the Monday?
Be a Monday.
Can we do it by Zoom, or can that be an option that I do it by Zoom?
Yeah, because it'd be a special meeting.
Catherine, I would do it with Zoom, but I'm literally going to be on an airplane when y'all are having the meeting, so.
Yeah, but I was gonna actually ask for it
Oh,
by
either
Zoom
way.
anyway. I'm
Yeah.
out of town
Okay.
that week,
Okay.
but I wanna, okay.
So if that's okay with everybody, we'll move that to the 16th. Jason?
And then if we're doing this, October 15th, look at shifting that. I'm gonna be on fall break.
Okay, so what would your preference be?
I'm just gonna be in Florida that whole week, so I could do Zoom if we can open that to a Zoom meeting, or if we wanted to shift it a week, but.
What's your all's preference on that?
I
You wanna do it by Zoom or you wanna move it?
I need to look at my calendar on that
I
one.
think
We've got some
Zoom,
time.
I think shifting it by a week's a lot on staff.
Okay,
Zoom-
Zoom,
Yeah.
Zoom's fine.
Maybe move it to October 22nd?
Yeah, as long as, Kathy, do you mind just noting that'll be a Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, do we
Yeah.
just the 15th?
No, it would be on this,
If
If we
just
move
do
it-
if we can just keep it on the same and just
Keep
give
it
him
on the
Zoom
15th.
access.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what's your all's preference? You wanna keep it on the same and do Zoom access, or move it?
That's
keep
fine.
it on the
Yeah, keep
same
it on
and,
the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'd be moving the 17th meeting to the 16th of September with Zoom access, and then keeping the regular date in October, but doing it by giving Zoom access.
And I will probably end up coming to that meeting by Zoom as well.
Okay.
I'll be there, so.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yep. Okay.
Do we need a motion on that, Hans, or?
No, sir, that's fine. I have one other item for
Yes, sir.
new and old business. I'd circulated a
Yes.
new policy the last couple of months. There've been some new developments that affect kind of our blogging and online presence. So I updated our social media policy to account for those new new authorities.
Right.
And remove the references to MySpace and Friendster and so forth to bring that up to date too. So if I could ask for a motion to approve that, I would appreciate
Everybody's
it.
got that in front of them here?
I tucked that into your binder.
Yeah, so everybody's got that?
I had a question on it.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to see what the question was. One of them where you say, I think it's on page 3, where employees, except where authorized, employees' social media content will not include intellectual property of the FPB. What would be the exception?
Which page are you?
It's page 3. It's mid page where it says except where authorized.
Oh, page 4.
4, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4, I'm sorry.
I can strike that part of it out if you.
No, I'm just
if you-
curious, is there an exception to where they could put something?
It might be that someone wants to promote the, promote the Next Man program, be a
Yeah.
Next Man ambassador. That's an excellent example, very timely example there. But
But that wouldn't be promoting a program's not gonna be the intellectual property of FPB. So I kind of agree with Steve on that one. I'm not sure we want to ever allow, I don't know how much
The logo.
intellectual property we have here, but
well, I can make that edit, and we can approve it with that edit.
I have a few other questions, I'm
So,
sorry.
do we have a motion to adopt the policy?
Steve's got some.
Oh, you got the motion? You got another one?
Steve has some questions.
On this same page, it says, otherwise employees shall not use social media for personal reasons on FPB equipment, on FPB work time. When would they ever use, be on their social media on FPB equipment?
Which, are you on number 2 there?
It's the second paragraph from the bottom.
Yeah.
The last sentence.
The incidental use.
I mean, when would they ever be on, the FPB?
I sort of liken it to, personal use of the telephone at work. If somebody, I don't know what, I don't have Facebook myself or anything, but if somebody's family says, hey, go pick up a gallon of milk or something like that on the way home, and they use some type of messenger or some type, and it's on a break, something of that sort. But we can strike that too if you prefer.
Well, I'm just questioning. I'm not saying it's. And then on the last page, H and I. I'm not sure what you say. Is that personal?
Personal use. That's personal. Your own sort of recommendations for your own.
Yeah, but are you telling the employees what they can't do on their personal time when they're home on their own?
Sort of a suggestion that AIs, if you write about FPB's competitors, you want to say you want to make sure what you say is true, and that the company's not accountable for that. The plant board's not accountable for what you say on your own personal time.
Yeah, but is that saying that they have to watch what they say on their social media accounts?
You can say
when they're
whatever.
talking about KU.
You can say whatever you like, but but the plant board's not responsible for that.
I think what he's saying is, if you go off the rails, you're on your own. And
I can make I say that if you like that.
No,
I like
but you shouldn't say I'm a 20-year employee with FPB and blah blah blah.
But no,
you shouldn't state it as if you're speaking on
you're in a
behalf of
position of
FPB.
authority.
It says that if I say the KU is whatever, and I'm home talking about something maybe not even relevant to the plant board, that could be something that.
As long as you can say anything you want, but you can't say you're doing it as an FPB employee or on behalf of FPB.
That line doesn't say that. It says that you can't say anything about a competitor. It doesn't give that context to it. Again, I'm just putting that out there because someone can.
It says you must understand the FPB is not accountable for your comments, and what you say is ultimately your responsibility.
Where you?
Set number I.
Okay, I said H also. That's what I was looking at. you know, likewise, you should use caution when commenting
Well,
about
I mean,
individuals.
Steve, I just think that's advice. I mean, you know, we've seen time and time again where folks have made, you know, inflammatory posts on different social media sites, and the first thing people will do will be run to their employer. And
All I'm saying, John, is I don't want that to hang somebody, some employee, because they were saying something in the comfort of their home that could be construed.
This is
from that language.
writing, this is publishing it on the social
On
media.
on their social media accounts.
And they can do anything they want on their social media,
they're
but they
making a
can't
public
say.
statement, but it's also your responsibility.
But we want to make sure the plant board is insulated from
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so as long as that's not punitive against them, if that's just insulating you legally.
It protects the FPB.
Protecting us, it's not saying we get to fire you because you did that.
But if you say something inflammatory and don't say that FPB, that you were authorized by FPB to say it.
But this is told about just whatever they might say.
Well, no, but I think it goes on to say that what you
Second
write is your
paragraph.
responsibility, and what you write is true, but you're not doing it as an FPB representative.
That one does, H is kind of,
Because
again,
you can say whatever you like, but the plant board's not responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You can, on your own personal time, personal equipment, whatever you want to say, but we're not
I
accountable
won't
for
belabor the
that.
point, but for me,
Yeah.
that, if these are things you should not do as an employee, that's one I might get hung up on if I'm an employee that says something in my home that's not even thinking about the plant board, that's, you know, somebody told me KU, whatever. And they shouldn't, you know. I don't want to belabor the point,
Yeah.
I can strike out.
no, I just, if y'all don't see that, I
Tell
mean,
you
I'm
what,
fine, I'm just.
John, I tell you what, would you all, I think enough questions have been asked about this.
Want to bring it back next
Let's
time?
bring it back. It's kind of late, and I prefer to put this on next month's agenda.
Okay. Is it okay with Hans?
Yes, sir.
I know we want to try to get it done, but I don't think this is the time to have a nuanced discussion about it after 3.5 hours.
We're just hitting our stride.
Yeah, you all are. I was at work at 8 o'clock this morning.
So we'll defer that. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? I mean, the night's young.
No. I'd make a motion we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of here. Thank you all.